It started the night I moved into the old apartment, a creaky, one-bedroom unit on the third floor of a building that had probably seen better days a century ago. The rent was cheap, suspiciously so, but I was in no position to question it. The landlord, an old man with a permanent scowl, had handed me the keys without much conversation, mumbling something about keeping to myself. I didn't ask what he meant. Maybe I should have. The first few hours were uneventful. Just me unpacking boxes, setting up my bed, and trying to ignore the musty smell clinging to the walls. The place had an odd stillness, as if it had been holding its breath for years, but I was too exhausted to care. By midnight, I had collapsed onto my mattress, the hum of the city outside lulling me into a shallow sleep. Then came the knock. It was faint at first, a gentle tap-tap from the front door. I wasn't expecting anyone, and the landlord had mentioned that no one else lived on this floor. I sat up, my heart already picking up speed. Maybe it was a neighbor, though I doubted it. Still, I dragged myself out of bed and shuffled toward the door, the old wooden planks groaning under my weight. I pressed my eye against the peephole. Nothing. Just the dimly lit hallway, empty and undisturbed. The uneasy feeling in my gut grew stronger. Maybe I had imagined it, half asleep and jumpy in a new place. I turned the knob, opening the door just a crack. The air outside was cold, carrying the faint scent of something damp and metallic. But there was no one there. I shut the door, locking it this time. A minute passed, then another. Just as I was convincing myself to forget about it. Knock, knock, knock. This time, it wasn't from the front door. It was coming from inside. I froze. The sound was unmistakable. 3 distinct knocks, dull and deliberate, coming from somewhere inside the apartment. My breath hitched, and a wave of cold trickled down my spine. It wasn't possible. I was alone. Forcing myself to move, I scanned the room. The kitchen was dark except for the faint glow from the street lamp outside. The bathroom door stood ajar, revealing nothing but a shadowy glimpse of the mirror. The closet? No, I had checked it earlier. There was nowhere for anyone to hide. The knock came again. I turned sharply, my eyes locking onto the closet door. It was shut just as I had left it. But the sound, it had come from there. A slow creeping dread coiled around my chest. I took a hesitant step forward, then another, swallowing hard as I reached for the handle. With a deep breath, I yanked the door open. Nothing, just my half-unpacked clothes and the musty scent of old wood. The fear clawing at my throat loosened slightly, replaced by a small wave of embarrassment. Maybe I was just tired. My mind playing tricks on me. Maybe the old building was settling, its worn-out bones shifting in the quiet of the night. I shut the closet and turned to leave. Knock, knock, knock. I spun back so fast my vision blurred. The sound hadn't come from the closet this time. It had moved. My eyes darted around the room, heart hammering. Then I saw it, the bathroom door. It was closed now, but I knew. I knew. I had left it open. The air felt heavier, pressing down on me like unseen hands. My throat was dry, my pulse a frantic drumbeat in my ears. I wanted to ignore it, to climb into bed and pretend I hadn't noticed, but I couldn't. I took slow, measured steps toward the bathroom. My fingers trembled as I reached for the handle. The door creaked as it swung inward, revealing the empty tiled space beyond. My own reflection stared back at me from the mirror, wide-eyed, breathless. Nothing. Again. But just as I let out a shaky sigh of relief, something shifted at the edge of my vision. A movement, so quick, so subtle, I almost convinced myself I had imagined it. Almost, because my reflection hadn't turned away when I did. My breath hitched. I stared at the mirror, willing my reflection to be normal, willing this entire moment to be a trick of exhaustion. But I couldn't look away. I didn't dare. The air in the bathroom felt colder now, dense, like the very space around me had shifted. My reflection stood frozen, its eyes locked onto mine, unblinking. I turned my head slightly, a small cautious movement. It didn't follow. A scream clawed its way up my throat, but I swallowed it down, backing away step by step. My foot hit the threshold of the bathroom, but just as I was about to cross it. Knock, knock, knock. The sound came from the mirror, not behind me, not from the walls, from inside the glass. A surge of pure, ice-cold terror shot through my veins. My body refused to move, but my mind was screaming, "Run, get out, don't look at it." But I did. I couldn't help it. Something was standing behind my reflection. It wasn't in the bathroom. It wasn't in the real world. It existed only in the mirror. A figure, tall and impossibly thin. Its face just a pale blur, as if the glass itself was distorting it. Its head twitched in unnatural, jerky movements, its shoulders rising and falling with ragged, uneven breaths. I didn't breathe. Then its hand, long skeletal fingers, rose to the surface of the mirror and knocked. 3 times. I stumbled backwards, slamming into the wall behind me. My pulse pounded so loudly I could barely hear myself think. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything but stand there paralyzed. Then the knocking started again. Faster, harder, desperate. The mirror shook violently, the glass warping like ripples in water. The figure on the other side pressed its palms against it, its face still blurred, but I could feel it staring at me. It wanted out. I turned, sprinting toward the door. My hands fumbled with the lock, my fingers slipping, shaking too much to work. The knocking behind me turned into pounding. The entire apartment seemed to vibrate with the force of it. Then, silence. I stood frozen, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. Slowly, I turned my head, just enough to glimpse the mirror. The figure was gone, but I wasn't alone. Because in the reflection, standing right behind me, was myself. But I wasn't facing the mirror. I was facing away, and yet the reflection was smiling. My chest tightened. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My reflection, the thing that looked like me, stood grinning in the mirror, its lips stretching wider than they should, its eyes gleaming with something wrong. I wanted to turn, to check if something was really behind me. But I couldn't. Every instinct in my body screamed that if I did, if I acknowledged it in the real world, it would become real. Then slowly, my reflection raised its hand and knocked on the glass from the inside. Knock, knock, knock. I stumbled back, shaking my head. No, no, this isn't happening. My voice was barely a whisper, but my reflection kept moving. It lifted its other hand and placed its palm flat against the glass. My real hands were clenched into fists at my sides, but in the mirror, the copy of me pressed forward, its expression shifting into something unreadable. Then I watched in horror as its gaze stepped forward. Not just in the mirror. Out of it. The glass rippled like water, and I felt the air around me grow heavier, pressing against my skin like invisible hands. My body locked up, every muscle tensed in terror. It was pulling itself free, escaping from whatever world had trapped it there. And then I felt something touch my shoulder. Cold, clammy, familiar. A sharp pain shot through my chest as my vision blurred. The world tilted, And suddenly, I wasn't standing in the bathroom anymore. I was inside the mirror. My own apartment stood in front of me, but it wasn't right. The colors were muted, the walls stretched unnaturally tall, and the air smelled stale, as if this version of my home had been abandoned for centuries. I turned toward the mirror, toward the faux real world. Standing there, staring at me through the glass, was my reflection. No, not my reflection. It was me, the other me, the one who had been trapped here before. He lifted his hand and waved. Then, smiling, he turned away from the mirror and walked out of my apartment, just into my life. I screamed. I pounded on the glass, but no sound came out. On the other side, the lights flicked off, leaving me in darkness, and then knock, knock, knock.